Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today we're going to talk about Andrew Yang, and we're going to talk about the question of what should be free. All right, so I spent this weekend at PAX Unplugged, which is a board game convention. Over probably between 35 and 40,000 people gathered in Philadelphia and played an entire 3 days of board games, right? And it was incredibly exciting for me to see what was happening there. There was really these wonderful things about American politics, American culture, and American society that I saw, and there were some scary things too, right? So one of the things I saw is one of the things I'm excited about with Andrew Yang's presidency is when Andrew Yang is president, not only are we going to have one of the most innovative financial mechanisms that has ever been applied in any government anywhere, but the freedom dividend will really release people from any type of fear of living without the basics, right? And really, that's the issue: is freedom dividend absolutely does not replace work, but it guarantees that everyone will be able to afford food, clothing, and shelter. I truly believe that. Now, this does get complicated because at the macro level in America, we have already solved these problems, right, to some extent. So let me talk that through a little bit. And so this is bolstering the safety net we already have. We truly do have the idea that America doesn't have a safety net is absolutely ludicrous, and I very much saw that this weekend. Well, let's get into this, right? So, one, no one starves in America if they choose not to. It's just, our nation's way beyond that, right? There's just nowhere in America where if you don't want to starve, you're going to starve to death. That absolutely happens on multiple continents in our planet, but it doesn't happen in North America. It just doesn't, right? We've reached a level of government support and charity where people just don't starve in America. You don't starve to death in America if you don't want to. Clothes, right? Clothes are so cheap. Most of us throw out more clothes than it's incredible in my home. Like, we constantly get free clothes through multiple sources, not through the government or any kind of charity, just people we know get because we have kids. They give us lots of awesome clothes. We very rarely buy clothes for our children because we know so many people, and a lot of people are just like, oh, hey, I know you have kids. I know they grow like crazy. Here's some more clothes, right? So, and it's crazy because my kids wear like a million weird shirts. Like, I'll look at a shirt. My son has a shirt that says Washington, D.C. I'm not sure he's ever been to Washington, D.C. And he wears it all the time, but we get a lot of free clothes, right? And at the macro level in America, Burlington Coat Factory, we have thoroughly solved the clothing problem. No one is going naked in America if they don't want to, right? The shelter issue is a little more complicated. We absolutely have homeless people in America, but in my opinion, I don't think we have a homeless problem in America. And the reason why is we have a recreational intoxication issue, and we have a mental health issue, right? We haven't solved those two issues there, and those two issues have the symptom of homelessness. So we don't have a homelessness problem in America. We don't have people who are issueless but just can't get a house, right? We have people who have other larger issues that homelessness is a symptom of. So at one level, we've actually solved homelessness in that the only issues we haven't really solved at any level, we have solved them at some level, but at the macro level, we have not solved recreational intoxication, and we have not solved mental health issues. And both of those have the symptom of homelessness, right? But that means we really have solved homelessness. I know that that's non-intuitive, right? You gotta track the dotted lines there to get there. But in America, we really have solved food, clothing, and shelter, right? And you can't say we solved homelessness without saying we really need to solve recreational intoxication, and which goes into intoxication that is not recreational, but that's how you get there, right? And then the other one is mental health issues. We still have lots of work to do, and I'm not underplaying that or undercutting it. I'm just, to me, that's the map, right? So one of the things I saw when I was there this weekend was I was looking around and I just saw America is so incredibly wealthy. And I saw these incredible layers of wealth at this board game convention. So one, I'm upper middle class, right? I'm certainly not wealth class. I'm not. You can't say I'm wealthy, right? But I absolutely am upper middle class, right? And when I went, I dropped $150 on games, there. And I did it, without any worries, And so and that was luxurious for me, right? So that there was that level, right? Then there were levels where there were clearly people who were buying $500, $1,000 of games to go home with them, and it wasn't even a small number. It was people carrying double arming bags. I saw people at the end of each convention night just carrying out some with literally hand trucks of board games they had bought. It was insane, just the amount of commerce you were seeing and what people had, and the people that had just extra money to spend on board games. It was incredible, right? And then there was the highest tier of wealth at PAX Unplugged. There are people who they actually carry badges that show who and what they are. They're the absolute pinnacle of wealth among Penny Arcade, among PAX Unplugged wealthy, right? These people wear lanyards, and the lanyards themselves cost $20. The lanyards are festooned, right, with collectible, unique metal pins, each of which are worth $15 at the lowest. Some of them are worth as much as $300 or $400 a piece. So on a single lanyard, they wear around their neck $250 to $500 of nerd jewelry. It's incredible. And these people, they have these unique pins because they can fly all over America and the world, because PAX is global, and buy pins that are only sold at these PAX Unplugged tournaments. So you saw it, and these people, right, they literally, the necklace around, the lanyard around their neck is carrying $200 to $500 worth of metal, right? And when they leave these places, they're taking $250, $500, $1,000 worth of games home with them. Many of them are flying them across the nation, so they're dropping $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 to get to PAX, spend at PAX, and have a good time at PAX. And there are hundreds, if not well over 1,000 of that last group I talked about, right? There is an incredible amount of wealth in America that are not millionaires and billionaires, just really wealthy people. And so one of the things, and we need to talk about this as Yang Gang, right? Because one of the issues is there are exceptions. There are people who are on the bottom of the rung who are struggling, right? But the reality is, we pretend that all of America, there are times when the Dems are like, oh, America's just doing terrible. It's not. There's an incredible amount of wealth in America, even beyond the millionaires and billionaires, right? Like, there are people who just make, $200,000, $300,000, $600,000, $800,000 a year, and there are tens, if not hundreds of thousands of them in America, right? Because PAX is all over the country, and what I just talked to you happens all over the U.S. and even happens in some nations outside of the U.S. It's incredible, the level of wealth, right? But one of the things that struck me is, and this was the scare, so all that is beautiful. I love that America is a gigantic capitalism profit engine, right? And guess what? If you're a Yang supporter, you like capitalism too, or you're supporting the liking of capitalism, because Yang ain't a socialist. It's one of the reasons why, I ride so hard for Yang. I ain't down with socialism, right? I am a Democrat, but I will never, ever stand by and watch without activism while our country swirls into a socialism whirlpool of financial death. I will not watch, right? I will always do my part to make sure that Bernie Sanders or anyone like him never, ever touches the presidency, right? It's just, it cannot be allowed, and we have to do everything we can with our vote, that should be the limit of it, to stop it, right? So, but capitalism is pretty amazing, right? Now, what was the cutting edge of PAX Unplugged, right? This gigantic board game convention that I went to that was sharp and uncomfortable for me to see. Well, frankly, there was just a ton of white people, right? Like, now this gets complicated for me because I am Native American. I'm of the Mattaponi tribe. And my great grandmother, her home was like literally a few hundred feet off the reservation down south. And, so I'm very Native American. But my wife isn't, and that means, my wife is she is not a person of color by any stretch of the imagination, which means my children are less people of color, right? And I'm not even, so, or people with diversity, right? So it gets complicated, right? But I was very sad to see, I would say 80% of PAX Unplugged, to my eyes, looked white, right? And it shouldn't be that way. It should be like 50-50. It should be like 60-40, some other number. It shouldn't be 80-20, right? And I was like, this is a problem, right? But under Yang, we're going to be able to pose some important questions. They're going to be able to ask some important questions. And one of the questions that came up in my mind, I was like, there are no poor people here. And that's a problem too, right? Like, are board games only for the wealthy, right? And it was distressing to me, right? And it also made me go further. And one of the things that I'm so excited about Andrew Yang's presidency for is this idea of the questions that can be asked and the way we get those answers. So one of the questions, I'm going to pose this now. I don't know the answer to this, right? Do poor people not like board games and that's why they're not there? Or are people poor because they don't like board games, right? Like, and that's a challenging question. You would have to move forward to get that answer very carefully, right? Under a Trump administration, you can't even pose the question. And the reason why is, in my opinion, Donald Trump does not care for all Americans. He cares for some Americans. Under Andrew Yang, every American, doesn't matter what your wealth class is, doesn't matter what your gender is, doesn't matter what your preference is, doesn't matter what color of skin you is, he cares and loves for every type of American, right? And so there could be safety in even asking these questions, and the way we would arrive at the answers to these questions would be balanced and fair. And I think you could move forward and ask these somewhat dangerous questions because you could trust that the person in charge had the kindness and care in their heart to have a space for that conversation. And I'm just so excited about that part of Andrew Yang's presidency, and the beauty of it, and the possibility of it, and the hope of it, and the dream fulfillment that day could be. It truly will be an American Camelot, right? And I am so excited for it and for moving to there, right? But I want to get to that question of what should be free. So one of the things I was realizing was, one of the things that PAX Unplugged had is it had this gigantic board game library, right? And I'm going to talk to you about Push Fight. Push Fight is a game I play once a year. I absolutely love this game. It's a beautiful game that is like a super simplified, incredibly fast playing chess. It is a beautiful game that was made about 5 or 6 years ago, and it's actually a failed game at this point, right? They have copies of, PAX Unplugged was created by Penny Arcade, who are millionaire video game webcomic creators. They're brilliant. Mike Krahulik and Jerry Holkins, brilliant creators. And they started PAX, right? And I think it's actually moved on to a new owner, but they're still, Penny Arcade is still marginally aligned with it, right? And but at one point, Penny Arcade gave a boost and said, "We love this game, Push Fight," right? This game, Push Fight, is made out of wood. It's expensive game because there's enough wood in Push Fight to build a chair, right? And so every piece of it is beautiful. It's tactile. It feels just wonderful to the touch. It's just a wonderful game, right? But it's out of print now. You cannot buy it, right? Because I'm the only person in the world who likes this thing. But they keep this game at PAX, and they have multiple copies of it at PAX. And I've been going to PAX for 3 years, and every year I play Push Fight by checking this game out of the library, right? And playing it with my family, right? And I literally, there was a dude I didn't even know who came by. He goes, "Is that Push Fight?" And I'm like, "Sit down, we'll play." Because I can teach the game in 5 minutes. So I didn't even know this person's name. He sat down, we played Push Fight together, right? And it was a shared language. This dude knew what Push Fight was, but had never played it. And I taught it to him in 5 minutes, and then we played 3 games in the next 10 minutes. And he went off along his way. 15 minutes later, I never even learned his name, but he thanked me for showing him the game, right? And but the thing that blows me away is this thing, you cannot even buy it, right? You cannot buy Push Fight because you can't even go on eBay and get it. And the reason why is there's so few copies of it that it's never even on eBay, right? But the reality is, what blew my mind is this thing just sat for free in the library, right? And people could go get it and then play it, and the push fight game that I was playing had all its parts. Nobody stole pieces from it. Nobody stole the game, right? And I was like, what is this? Like, this thing, it's just sitting here in the library, right? But it's super valuable, right? And it brought to my mind what it should be free, right? And so one of the things is, this thing was free to check out if you had already paid your entry into the convention, right? But the reality is, it would be very, very easy to steal parts from this game, or even to steal the game, right? And the reality is, it really blew my mind, because you can put valuable things in front of people who are wealthy, and they will not attempt to steal them because they already have a lot of things, right? And so one of the things that really encouraged me is the freedom dividend. It's going to lift the bar and make it so that people are just so much less desperate, right? Because the reality is, I desperately want Push Fight, right? Like, Scott's Dark Heart would steal that game in a New York second, but I don't really need it. And the reason why is I have 40 board games sitting in my closet, right? I give away or throw away games every year to keep my collection tight, right? And I don't, and when I'm like, ooh, I'd love to own that, it's easy to push away the desire to steal it because I have so much, right? And I think this is one of the things that's going to be incredibly valuable with the freedom dividend, is it will remove desperation from people, right? And people will be less desperate and less willing to do anything that is crime related, that is hurtful to other people, right? It just helps us be better humans. It helps us to put humanity first, right? And I think when everyone in the nation has $12,000 minimum, right, you're going to be able to put more and more things in front of people who have less money, feeling safe with interacting with them with valuable things, right? And when you can put more valuable things in front of them and let them interact with those valuable things and then return them and allow those valuable things to be used by others, it will help those people to surge even higher into the wealth class. The freedom dividend is so incredibly powerful because it lifts the poor to the wealthy rather than the tired, horrible, foolish model of Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders, which is let's hook the wealthy and drag them to the poor. It's such a broken model, and it's so small and so shrivel-hearted compared to the freedom dividend that Andrew Yang has built with his brilliant mind and his gleaming, brilliant heart, right? And it's and honestly, I have to say, I love the freedom dividend. I love Andrew Yang. I love Yang Gang, and I am incredibly excited about the future of this nation under a Yang presidency. All that's my opinion. I'd love to hear your opinion on the topic. Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium.